Hey y'all, I have just finished a conversation with my sister, Artisha Bolding, and I know that it is going to bless you. But I also want to take this time to thank our sponsors, John Travis, a financial coach and certified Kingdom advisor with Richard Young Associates, a registered investment advisor. I'd also like to thank Sense of Satisfaction by Cricket and Paul H. Bush, The Burning Bush. Those are some of our sponsors who have donated and made this possible. And I want to thank you if you have sown a seed into this. And if you haven't, please consider it, because it's testimonies like the one you see today that is going to bless people around the world. And I also want to take this moment to let my sister show you her book. What is it called?
The Patient is Wearing Lipstick.
You should get it. It will be referenced a lot in this conversation. And to get the full story, you'll read it there. So make sure you pick it up anywhere books are sold, Amazon, or you can contact her. We'll have her IG, Facebook, all that information, and you can get in touch with her. But stay tuned. This is going to be great. It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The SisterSpeak+BrotherBreak show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together. And sometimes the only way people separate is to be in so much pain.
Yes.
For this thing to have to blow up in your face, that's a lot of times the only way people separate.
Yes. Through crisis or tragedy, unfortunately.
Yes.
And as you know, that was my story. And so I have these sort of parallel universes that were going on. And I'm spending so much time at the job handling different things and I'm being exposed to different things. I became very ill on the job, and it was, again, God will have a purpose for someone, but when we get and we want to put another purpose, another assignment on them is the issue. So it would just so happen that through my illness, as it was developing and I was having to go to the doctors and to the ERs, many of those ER visits were at 4, 5, and 6 in the morning after we got off of work. And so many times it was my coworker, my friend, who I built this unhealthy relationship with, that was taking me to the ER, getting me checked in at the doctors and things like that. And I was in a very uncomfortable position because then I had to say, okay, you have to leave because my mom is coming. You have to leave because my still husband has now driven 7, 8 hours to check on me and be by my side. And I just thank God for his forgiveness, the Lord's. I thank God for my husband and I forgiving each other, growing together to be able to get past that. But it started off with a good intention, turned bad. And I think someone said that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Is that the same?
Yes, it is. It is.
Starts off as a good intention that becomes perverted.
Yes. So did your family know the gentleman? Did they?
Yes. So it wasn't like, 100%. They can never see you, never speak to you or anything. My sister and I were working at the same job. We were actually all in training together. So she knew the man anyway, but she and I were on different shifts. But she knew that we had began to carpool together and everything. And at first she thought that it was just friendly. And I'm sure she knew, because as women, we know when a guy's into us and when a guy's into somebody that we care about. So she knew, but she never at first had any inkling that it would go anywhere. And so as time went on, And I would share with her. There were a certain few people that I would share a certain few things. I mean, just a very few. And I would say to her, okay, you know, he came up to the hospital, or he brought me some food, and things like that. And her eyes would just kind of bug out, and she wouldn't say a lot. But I know that she was praying, and there were instances where she would say, is this really what you want? And she wouldn't argue. She wouldn't beat me over the head. She would say, okay, I'm not going to say anything, but I'm just going to pray. I'm just going.
And so this was your friend?
Yes.
This was that was the title
That
from
was
you.
the title
was
that
friend.
family and others knew.
And now what about on the flip side? What about his family and friends?
Oh, I was his girl.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And it got really, really weird, because everybody's like, I've never seen him this happy, because, you know, we both grew up in the hood, and that's the thing, you have such common backgrounds, and then there just become layers of
They understand
connection.
me.
Yes.
They get me.
Yes, yes. And so folks will say, I've never seen him this happy. Normally he's so angry and everything, but he's let his guard down and everything. And then, you know, that's just music to your ears. That's just an added layer of, oh, this must be right.
And it feeds the neediness. It feeds the ego. And what's the definition of ego?
Edging God out.
Edging God out. It feeds that ego. And like you said, it gets to the point where it can't be wrong. This is the best feeling relationship I ever had in my life.
Exactly.
It can't be wrong. And we know all along. We know all along. Do you feel like, looking back, the things that you did share with the very few people, was it just because you were so excited and wanted to share, or was it a secret, subconscious cry for help?
Wow, that's a very good question.
Because the people that you share with, you know them. You know what they want for you. You know, you know when someone has your best interest. And even if nobody else, you know your sister. And you know, so just to me, it really feels like subconsciously you wanted just a life jacket. You wanted somebody to throw you a rope, even though the rope could have been in front of you, and you like, child, please, I got this. Don't need it, but you know, feels like maybe something somewhere was like.
I honestly, before this moment, never considered that. But as you speak more about it, I think that probably was it, at least with my sister. So I think, to answer your question, both, because I had a family member who is more of a party girl, hang out, and actually just a very small world in an even smaller town. Knew the guy from high school. And so, you know, we would hang out and do things. And so it was just, you know, this other side. I can party, I can drink, I can do this. It's not about church. It's not about being prim and proper and stiff and boring and things like that. But thinking about it, sitting here in a real moment in time, there's no way my sister ever would have agreed with that. It would have to be, it would have to be God. It would have to be a move of God. And it was not that. It was not that. So I know that she would love me unconditionally. I know that she would absolutely pray for me unconditionally and not let any real harm come to me. So I would have to say yes. And I would one thing that is very important for me to always share, I was doing, I don't want to say doing the opposite, I want to say it like this, completely neglecting my purpose. I've long known what I was called to do. I've long known that God had ministership, leadership on me. I've long known that people really cherish the advice that I give them because I have a care and a compassion for people. And I was doing the opposite. I was completely neglecting those things. And so while I was exposed to things that I had no knowledge of, and my lungs and heart began to get into a place of dysfunction, I've said before and I say again, I believe that that was a response to a sickness in my soul. And I believe that God allowed it to play out in the way that it did to break that soul tie, to get rid of that relationship.
Yes, because I know your story from the book, and we'll let you know what the book is so you can get the book. But because I know the story, I know the things that you said, you were coughing up physically, that would feel like it was going to choke the life out of you.
Literally choke the life out of me.
And that's what was happening, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
It's like this stuff was making it so you couldn't breathe fully in purpose, and back and forth, to the hospital, sometimes maybe picking you, I don't know if when you were released sometimes or whatever, and you're just trying to keep everything out. So because a lot of times things only die when they come to light. So what brought about the death of that soul tie?
So, going into the separation where it was, okay, I put my stake in the ground and just say, no, I want the marriage over. I'm going to do this new thing. My husband, of course, found out what was going on. He went through my phone because I was so smart that I didn't even lock my phone, just brazen, right? And so he read a bunch of messages, saw a bunch of pictures, and he knew well what was going on. And he was always willing to fight for us, and I just kind of felt like I didn't have any fight left at that time. And so even with that, I could not be more grateful. Even with that, when this illness began to present itself and escalate, he was there the entire time, no matter what was going on. And that was a God thing. He's very kind and has a lot of compassion, but that absolutely was a God thing. And I thank God for that. And so where the tides really turned, so I began to start having to go to the hospital around the Thanksgiving holiday of 2017. And so 2018 got really, really crazy. So January, March, and May were exceeding each other. I was literally getting sicker and sicker. And so even at the hospital visits, I'm like, I love him. He's such a good guy. I'm so glad he came, but I'm still going to do this thing right here. And so it wasn't until March, the very first time that I went into a coma in ICU. I had to be intubated, okay? And anybody that doesn't know what that is, that's a tube down your throat, which is the most horrific thing in the world.
Still, every time I hear you say, the first time I went into a coma, that just takes me like the first time. Okay, but you're sitting here and
Hallelujah.
Telling your story.
Thank you, God. My resurrection story.
Yes.
So grateful. And so I realized in March, after the ICU experience, after having to spend another holiday in the hospital, having to be visited instead of being with my family, and I had to send, I was preparing to send a text to say, you can't visit. Chris is here. Chris is my husband. And I looked in the phone and the text said, oh, I'm glad he's here. He needs to sign the divorce papers. Because it was just a view of, no, you are mine. You belong to me. And I realized in reading that when I'm literally fighting for my life, you're jockeying for position.
Right.
I said, oh no, that was it for me.
Now let me rewind for a minute. So when hubby read all, Did he approach you?
He, he didn't. He did not at first.
Yeah.
He did not. He did not pack anything. He did not fuss. He did not cuss. He did not try to knock my head off. None of the above. He actually reached out to the guy.
Okay.
He was just like, man to man, I want you to stay away from my wife.
Okay.
He was like, you don't even have to tell her, but you need to end this. I don't know how this even got this far, but you need to end this.
Okay.
And I believe that he actually told him not to even tell me that the two of them had talked, but of course he did. And
your reaction
my
was?
little world crumbled. I was just like, I've been found out. And I literally melted. It was on a Sunday after church. Okay, so in my Sunday's best, I want my new friend to see my cute dress and my nice shoes, you know. And I had presented it at the time to my husband as, that's my me time. I work very hard. I go to church, or we go to church on Sunday. After church, I want to be by myself. That's what I would tell him. And so I started, you know, maybe going to the mall and doing things, grabbing a coffee, driving around, being by myself. But then it segued into hanging out with my friend.
Right.
And when I went over there, he was like, we have to talk. And I was like, what? Talk about what? And he showed me the text between he and my husband. And I about melted in the floor. I just could not believe that I had been found out.
Right. So but you didn't stop?
I stopped for probably about 5 minutes.
Okay. And then because it's a soul tie.
Yes, and because I'm still spending 50 hours a week with this guy. So we worked at the same plant, at the same job site in the plant, and on the same project. So we were literally together all the time.
Gotcha.
So, but now I want to say this for someone who may be experiencing this, and they're saying, I'm in so much close proximity. I don't really know if this is healthy or not. If it is, I don't know how to gauge it. I don't know how to get out of it. I will say in my situation, because of how there was a construction site, and because I had supervisors, I absolutely could have put in a request for a transfer. I absolutely could have asked for a different assignment. But pride, fear, attention seeking, fleshly desire, all of the above wouldn't allow me to even think that way.
Okay.
And so we were there together all the time.
Okay. And so fast forward to March. And you said in the hospital, you get the text like, I'm glad he's here. Get him to sign the papers. And then take us from there.
And I always giggle at this because it's hilarious. So we have cartoon characters of ourselves in the phone. A lot of people have them on Facebook and in text messages. And my husband loves those things. So we have our own little cartoon characters. And when I scroll through my text messages, you know, to make sure that number one, my friend wasn't coming to visit, also to find out where my car was, because I was pretty sure it was at his house at the time. And I looked at the text. My husband had taken it upon himself to respond to my friend. And he sent the cartoon character with big green letters that said denied. Okay. In other words, access denied. We're done. And that was it. And he and I, of course, he's read the book, but he and I have never discussed it. That was it. I said, if he is willing to fight, so am I.
And that was how many years ago?
That was 4 years ago.
Okay. And so, but he read the book in 2022. Okay.
And so, we had done the launch and everything's going good, and we're excited, and we're on Amazon and all of this. And I almost don't want to say this out loud, but I will. Of course, he was free to read it, but I said to him, I said, you can read this. I said, if you choose not to, I'm fine with that. And so me calling myself being strategic, I would not leave copies around the house. It's like, I don't want him to be tempted. Like if he's not thinking about it, he doesn't have to do it. And so I went to a ministry event and I was away for the weekend, and he read the book. He read the book, and he texted me. I don't know if I was traveling back home or if I was still away. I think I might have still been away. And he sent the sweetest text to tell me that he was thinking about me, he loved me, and he was like, and I read the book. He said, I got mad all over again, but I'm so glad what God has done in our lives. He said, I'll love you forever.
That's a blessing.
Yes, it is.
A big, big blessing.
Yeah.
So how did you break it with old dude?
So now this is the thing too, and I talk about this in my story. I don't subscribe to cancel culture, so I don't do this whole blocking thing. I'm like, you know, if you call me, I can just not answer the phone or what have you. But I had to get to the place where I blocked him on everything. I blocked him on my phone. I blocked him on all social media, because even after that, so again, this was 4 years ago. So fast forward a little bit to 2 years ago, in you know, coming up on 2020 and coming up pre-pandemic, and the things that we were going through. His thing, because he knows that I'm a church girl, and he knows a few folks that I thought were members here, but I think were only visitors anyhow. And he would say, oh, so-and-so is in the hospital. Did you know? Did you tell your church? You need to make sure you pray for so-and-so. And so that was always his in. And then the conversation would shift to what was going on at work in the good old days and what you got going on. And I was just like, I'm not interested in that. And so I reached out to a sister who had become an accountability partner. And because in my mind, it's like, I'm strong, I'm out of this, I'm fine. I don't have to delete this. I'm okay, I'm fine. And if he needs me to pray for someone, I sure will. This is the story that I told myself. And I said, well, let me, the Holy Spirit in the back of my mind said, just run that by somebody and see. And so I shared it with this sister, and she was like, absolutely not. There is no conversation the two of you need to have. And I fully accepted it. I didn't fight against it. I didn't even have to repeat it and run it by somebody else to get a second opinion.
That's good.
Immediately blocked on everything. And I felt such a release. I had never blocked anybody in my life, not out of my phone. I barely even knew how to do that. Like that's not my deal, because what I know how to do is ignore. You know, and so it was very freeing.
It was very liberating.
Yes.
So if you had to encourage someone, if they find themselves in the midst of a soul tie right now, and they're like, yeah, she did it, but how do I? What do I do? How will I live without this? All of that stuff. What's your wisdom to someone who's in that position now?
Something that I said in a post on my social media the other day: there will be joy after this. There will be peace after this. There's a whole big, bright, beautiful world outside of this person, outside of this relationship. And what you absolutely never want to neglect and never want to delay is your purpose for God. So reach out to somebody. First of all, kick the guilt and shame out of the door. Okay? Because no matter what somebody knows or thinks, they have their own stuff that they've had to fight before. So don't let guilt or shame keep you in a dark place. Step out into the light. Reach out and touch someone. And I know that this goes all over the globe. If you don't have anyone in your circle, reach out to me. Reach out to Marcy. Like literally, this is what we do. We intercede. So if it comes to the place where you need to get on our Facebook, on our email, do it.
Yes.
Just purpose in your heart that this is important enough. I feel a
Yes.
calling from God. I feel
Yes.
a pulling from the Holy Spirit to get away. Then just do it.
Yes.
Do what it has to be so important that you do whatever it takes. People have to understand that your life is at stake.
It is.
Your life is
It
at
is.
stake. I don't want anyone to have to learn their lesson from a hospital bed
Right.
like me.
Right.
And so it's not about scare tactics. It's just letting you know where a dark road can take you.
Yes.
So reach out to someone. No guilt, no shame. Take the mask off. Be 100% authentic and decide to do better.
That's good. That's good. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time. I want to thank you even more than for your time, for your vulnerability, because people are liberated when you share your testimony. And there are so many people, because of the nature of the testimony, they go their entire lives with part of their stories never coming out. But if they live through it, they can help someone else live through it. So I thank you for sharing, for your transparency, for just being willing to share that part of your story, because I believe that it's going to save someone's life, save their ministry, save their marriage, and their mind.
Amen.
I really do. I really do. So thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today for the Sister Speak Brother Break show. As I always ask you, share this with somebody. If you're led, even if you don't know why you're led to share it, just share it. Heck, just share it anyway. Even if you're not led, share it, because I believe it is going to help someone. So join us next week, same place, same time, for the Sister Speak Brother Break show. Be blessed. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at the ssbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together. Missed any of our past episodes? The pain that I've gone through, I've been through lots. Depression, perversion, low self-esteem, rejection. But I'm here, and I'm loving life, and I'm changed forever. I'm trying to maim you, to leave you, like, physically and mentally maim you. He wanted your life.
I don't think he so much wanted my life is that he wanted some results. He wanted me to stay in the earth and not be who I am now.
Piece where you start talking about it was your love walk.
Yes.
We had an opportunity to not only share our experience, but find out that there were so many women in the room who had similar experiences.
Advice would you give to people who find themselves in the grips of grief right now?
The pain is inevitable, but the suffering is optional.
You were still sick, you still weren't well, but did something change for you when they gave it a name?
Yes, because once they put a label on it, I felt like it was putting a label on me.
Catch up on past shows on my YouTube channel at Marcy Bush, MarceyBush. And be sure to subscribe so you won't miss any future episodes.